That's why not. Now I think we're good. Yeah. Darn it. Now I got to do it all over again. Wade and Carter Weather brought to you by the great folks at Actino Hayfeeder Ranch Services. Stop on by for all, well, the folks on radio heard it all, but anyway. For those watching on YouTube or Facebook, 63 heading to high today of 85. Going to be nice. There we go. Thank you all. Forgot to push one button. One dang button. And it gets you. Well, it gets me. It doesn't get you. There we go. So go back through roll call. Wendy Hughes Garcia, Greg Garcia, Scott Tomko. First one's in on the podium. Sarah Elkins, Marvin Mickish, Jordan Glass. If you want to get in on the roll call every morning, tune in on Facebook or YouTube. Like and share the video. Follow, subscribe. Doran Bales, Bobby Leister, Stephanie Connie, Mark Kurtz. Fence builder extraordinaire, Ryan Hopping. That's how I build you the first time. Scott Snow, Lisa Poole, Linda Chris, David Glass, Micah Patton, Judge Posey, good morning. Jarrett McCurgan, good morning, cuz. Andrew Alvarez, Ricky King.
I feel like we're on Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Funky Trey Molina, Patrick Strauss, good morning to you, Patrick. Mark Zapata, Brent's mom, good morning, Mom. Monty Howard. I think we're good now, though, on the sound. Heather Stewart. Matt Boucher, Rena Scherer. Oh, we're big on the cruise ships this morning. Somewhere, I don't know where, but Rena must be listening to us on ham radio. I don't know. Yeah, there's Paul Ebner.
Should I filter in some static this morning?
Maybe so, just for her. Justin Glass, Junior Samples, Amanda Bloschke, Brooke checking in as well. Good morning, everybody. Glad you're all here. So a couple of interesting things in the House in Texas. Yesterday, Texas passes a new NIL bill. They had passed a couple previous versions, I think going back to 2021. For those unfamiliar, this allows college athletes to be compensated for the name, the use of their name, image, and likeness. And it's gotten to the point where it's no longer true to the intent of the law. And schools around the country are basically just using it to pay student athletes, primarily in football and men's basketball. And you're starting to see a little bit more of it in women's basketball, baseball, and men's hockey. Western Michigan just won the NCAA hockey championship, and apparently they are the second largest driver of revenue on that campus, behind football. But they've also apparently have some NIL deals with their hockey team that a lot of schools don't have, and especially in Texas since there is no hockey. But House Bill 126 voted 109 to 35 yesterday, passed. And there was a lot of debate yesterday. It got pretty contentious at times. But it will allow athletes to be paid directly from their universities while performing team-sanctioned events or to be used as inducement for enrollment at a school. So you can actually use your student athletes to market. And make no mistake, this is primarily an NCAA Division I piece of legislation. But I think what Texas was worried about was college football in Texas was going to fall behind the rest of the country because we weren't allowing this to happen. And I don't believe the state of Texas allows collectives like many states are doing. And if you're unfamiliar with that, it's basically a loosely associated, well, in some states, loosely associated. In other states, it's very much tied to the university. But it's become another fundraising arm that is separate from foundations and such for athletic programs. And they've been gathering money, and they're the ones that are paying student athletes. Sometimes in conjunction with coaches who say, this is the kid I want to go after. How much money do we have for him? Or there have been some cases of some rogue collectives just going after kids without coaches really being in the know, which is interesting. But I think this basically will not see the formation of collectives in the state of Texas, but also has a new clause that allows that any new NCAA rules or court orders to supersede the state law, so they won't have to go back and update this new the NIL laws in Texas every couple of years. NCAA set to see what happens in the House settlement or accept the House settlement, $2.6 billion in back payments to student athletes who missed out going back to 2016 to the legalization of payments in 2021. And also, I believe like $26 million a year or something like that. Each university that opts into the House settlement going forward will have to share revenue with student athletes. So District 65 State Rep Mitch Little, according to KBTX in Bryan, says that we would be killing college football in Texas if we don't pass this bill. So interesting. Linda Chris says the government's paid Obama millions of dollars to use his name regarding Obamacare. I think that's been debunked, even by others that aren't Snopes and the likes of such that don't matter. Another bill that is interesting in the Texas House, House Bill 6, and I think this one's going to committee this week. This would expand school districts' authority to discipline students for classroom disruptions. The state has eroded a lot of ability for schools and teachers to take action on kids. Texas Tribune has a pretty good write-up on this bill, and in their article says a 2017 state law bans suspensions for pre-K through second grade unless the kid commits a serious offense like brings a gun to school. Which I can understand, but there were enough turds and bullies in second grade and first grade that these kids probably need to find other places to learn or other ways to learn and not be in with the regular classmates. 2019, according to the Tribune, the state passed a bill that would enact similar restrictions on disciplining homeless students and only allowing suspensions when they break rules related to violence, weapons, drugs, or alcohol. So really, if a kid giving provisions to I think very small populations in the classroom, but now House Bill 6 will apparently give teachers and school districts a lot more authority and ability to respond to the classroom disruptions. Under House Bill 6, schools could issue out-of-school suspension to all students when they engage in repeated and significant disruption of the classroom or threaten the immediate health and safety of other students. Plano Republican Jeff Leach, state rep, authored the bill. Currently, I think schools can have in-school suspension and out-of-school suspension, and they can use well, we used to send the kids in Victoria to Mitchell, and I don't think Mitchell exists anymore. They don't call it Mitchell. They don't call it a guidance center anymore. It's, what do they call it now?
Is that STEM Academy now?
No, I think it's the old Stroman School. Disciplinary Alternative Education Program.
Oh, the alternative
is the term
program.
I learned about yesterday. Yeah.
Do you think this is a good bill, Ash, since you're involved in the education process?
I'm not involved in K through 12, but do I think it's a good one? Knowing enough teachers who are frustrated with the fact that they can't do anything. And if you're a teacher,
Right.
give us a call, 361-894, or actually, no, I can't call that number. Comment. Brent took the phone with him. I don't have the phone.
That guy.
Yeah. Christy Thurman says our teacher had small rulers. It would smack your hand just a bit, enough to make you snap out of your savage mode. I remember teachers in elementary, they throw chalk at you, a chalk brush here and there. You learn to duck.
What's chalk?
Could have taken an eye out. That's what chalk is. But no, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, I think it's a really good thing. Lisa Poole says it's a great thing. Opponents of the bill says that it could lead to over-reliance on discipline that'll push students out of the classroom. Here's my answer to that. These are kids that already don't want to be in the classroom. And they think by sending these kids to disciplinary alternative education programs, what we used to call as kids the stupid school, or juvie, even though it wasn't really juvie, but it was close. I guess they have the opportunity for these kids to learn online rather than going to the DAEP or whatever they call it. I think it's funny. You got the name of a school that most kids that you send them to can't pronounce. But Austin Democrat Representative Gina Hinojosa told the House committee that she's worried that we want to make sure we're not washing our hands of these kids. You know what? If you're causing enough disruption in classroom, we need to be washing our hands of these kids. Find something else. They don't want to be there. They're hurting the ability to learn of kids that want to be there or want to learn. So why not? Ricky King says, can we call that number anyway just to annoy Brent? Go ahead. Ginger Samples says, punishment of bullied kids by being kicked out for defending themselves needs to stop. Yeah, I agree with that. It's about the only time the schools ever seem to adhere to their no tolerance policies or zero tolerance policies is when there's a fight. They'll let dress code violations go all day long, which I personally, I think unless you're wearing school uniforms, I think dress code's stupid. Just my opinion. We've got a guest this morning. We're going to take our first break because looking forward to having a great conversation with Woodrow Wilson Wagner about some things that he's got coming up. The Dollar Floor Store, the Floor Trader. Make sure you get by there for all your flooring needs, whether it's carpet, tile, laminate, wood, vinyl plank, luxury vinyl plank. They've got it all. Easter specials at the chopping block. $14.99 boneless prime rib. $14.99 a pound for choice strips. And don't forget, they'll pre-cook some stuff for you as well. And those holiday orders are due by the end of day tomorrow. And tomorrow's also Wacky Wing Wednesday. So if you get in there tomorrow with your Easter holiday cooking orders, you can pick up a bunch of wings, throw them on the grill. They're perfect. Compadres Design. Make sure you stop there for all your merch needs, swag needs, all the tchotchkes you want to give away. Compadres has you covered. USA Concrete Coating for all your flooring needs. USA Concrete Coating has you covered. You've got a drab slab, they'll transform it into something fabulous. Pool decks, garage floors, patios, foundation. USA Foundation Repair can also come and level up any slab or foundation problems that you have. Palace Bingo, where friends meet friends, next Thursday. That's where we will be, meeting all our friends. Wade and Kurt tonight to Palace Bingo. Come on out. We always have a good time there. And don't forget to stop by Atzenoffer for all your new Chevrolet Mitsubishi needs. South Texas tradition since 1926. And as my esteemed colleague and guest comes on in, I'll tell you one more about Chesnick Furniture Company. Make sure you get by Chesnick for all your furniture needs. Best recliners, best sofas. They live up to their name, American made, and they simply are some of the best furniture you will find around anywhere. So welcome back to the show, and welcome back to a guest who's no stranger to the show. But if you don't know him, Woodrow Wilson Wagner joining us this morning. How are you, sir?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, just get a little closer to that mic so the folks can hear you. There you go.
Do I need to put
Perfect.
the headphones on?
These ones will, if you want to hear. I mean, we can't. We're not going to have a call because Brent took the phone.
Oh, he took the phone.
Yeah, but
Stupid
it's always
Brent.
something.
yeah. But if there are some comments that come in and questions, we can go through that. So I know this doesn't affect you, but your view on something like this that allows teachers to kick students out of the classroom that are being disruptive to their learning, others' learning, and to teachers, and not just for, safety violations anymore or personal safety.
That is a thing. And it's the safety is one thing, but then the other thing is the learning of the other students who want to be there and want to learn.
Yeah.
They're being shortchanged.
Even
right?
those that don't want to be there and don't want to learn, but they have enough respect for
Right.
what's going on that they'll
Absolutely.
sit there quietly and do what they're told to do, right?
Absolutely. So that kind of accountability, I think, is absolutely necessary, not just for the safety's sake, but to ensure the quality of learning for everybody else. Because, they're there and they want to participate. So
Yeah. That always seems to, that's what gets lost in these debates about discipline and kicking kids out. They never take into account the other kids
right.
in the classroom whose learning has been disrupted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tammy Keeling has zero tolerance policies in which districts? There are several that have cell phone zero tolerance policies and they actually enact them. But
VISD supposedly.
Yeah. But we know where VISD goes with dress code, student discipline. They have not been, in my opinion, very good at following through on the threats they've made to students
Right.
on these things. Brad Mitchell joining us, Christy Thurman, good morning. So you've been busy putting together a candidate forum because there are some elections coming up. And typically this is an election that doesn't get a huge turnout.
Right.
I mean, we're talking if we're lucky, we might get 15% of registered voters usually in a May election. If that. Yeah.
If I'll go for 15. Yeah.
So we've got some heavily contested races this time around. School board. What else? City council?
No, we've got mayor,
That's
school
it.
board, and then the bond is
The
up.
bond is big.
That's
The
getting
bond-
lots and lots of attention.
For the community center. And so you've decided, or you've designed a way for people to learn more and to get to know the candidates and the issues. So tell us what's happening and what's going on, Woodrow, with that.
Well, we'll be presenting our community election forum at the University of Houston, Victoria tomorrow night, starting at 5:30 p.m. Now, one of the things about our forum that I think is unique is that we try to include not just people in person, but online as well. We've got a number of students, faculty, and staff from UHV who are very interested in this, but are not able to come. And so we'll stream it live on Microsoft Teams, but the Victoria Advocate will also stream it live on their website. So all those online folks can be included. The other thing is we have students involved asking these questions.
Okay.
And these students aren't too far removed from VISD education. Many of them are products of the VISD system. And so they indeed know, perhaps more than a lot of us, firsthand what's going on in those schools. So it's nice to have those student voices to be part of this conversation. So we'll have a number of questions from them and from audience members in the forum itself. Audience members will have the chance to fill out a card, and then we can incorporate those questions into it. So we try to make it as interactive and as much as a dialogue as you can, these kind of things. I mean, some of the things are set, but we do want to try to provide everybody in attendance with the opportunity to interface with these candidates. And as you said, Ash, a lot of people aren't even aware that there is an election.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the folks have probably not heard of these candidates, but each of these individuals, I think, is very, very important, whether you are going to vote for them or not, because they're going to be making decisions that affect our everyday lives right here in Victoria, more so than what happens on the state or the national politics. So I think it's real important to get a sense of what their priorities are, how they feel about the major issues, and especially as we look at a national landscape where something like education might be changing dramatically. We've already seen it with President Trump's executive orders. We've seen other actions taken by Secretary McMahon in terms of perhaps dismantling the United States Department of Education. What that's going to mean ultimately is more local control, certainly by the state, but we can't forget the school boards. If that scenario happens, I believe, and I think other political scientists believe, that our school boards will probably be more powerful than ever, more powerful than they probably realize right now in terms of the decisions they might be making that they've never made, perhaps in the history of our country. So I think there's a lot at stake. I don't think it's too dramatic to say that. We have a seat in District 7 where this is an open seat because Mike Mercer's retiring. And so for the first time in a long time, we're going to have a new voice in that conversation. So I'm really looking forward to those candidates and hearing their ideas about moving forward.
Yeah. And I think we've had each one of those candidates on this show. Josh Moore, Mickey
Excellent.
Costello, and Christian West have all been on the show to talk about their candidacy and why you should vote for them. I know for the other school board seat, we've had one
Right.
of the contestants on,
Right.
and that's it.
And would love to get the other one on.
She's afraid of us.
I understand.
Well, I don't know
I
about
don't know
that.
why.
She'll be at our forum tomorrow, so voters will have the opportunity. The only one that will not be in attendance is our mayor. He's got other things that he's working on, of course, that are very important to the city's business. But we will have Jacob Sasada, who is running for mayor.
No, he has not been on.
And I would encourage candidates, if you're listening, please come on Wade and Carter. I think some people think, oh, Wade and Carter, they're biased, they're this, they're that, the other thing. You should know, I don't agree with everything Wade and Carter says, especially when Brent is here, right?
He's the worst.
You know,
See, I don't know why he gets that. I don't know why he always gets that.
but Brent and I can have a conversation. We can disagree without being disagreeable.
Yeah.
And we'll shake hands and we'll go at the end of the day. So I would encourage any candidate. This is an opportunity for you to showcase and to talk to voters and to really get your message out.
Yeah, just I don't know. It doesn't seem to happen very often. I don't know why, but it just doesn't.
I think the legend becomes bigger than the reality, right?
True enough. True enough.
It's a great thing to say, like, oh, Wade and Carter, you know, right? Then you actually listen to the show and you're like, oh, he's talking about House bills and Senate bills, and he's talking about like really important things that, you know, probably are going to affect my life. So
Yeah, no, that's part of the problem, right? I think. Yeah, Andy Rokovich has been on the show. Of course, he's running for District 6. Margaret Pruitt also running in that district. And then isn't there a District 1 race as well, or is that one?
Well, that one's uncontested.
So who is the one that filed there?
Is it
Kathy Bell?
Is
Is
it
that
Miss
the name?
Bell?
Yeah,
I think it's Miss
so.
Bell. So Miss Bell will automatically, you know, go to the
Yeah.
finals.
So, okay, so there we go. And then I think the two city council races, Super District 5, Andrew Young, Super District 6, Mark Lofgren. I think,
Also
right?
uncontested.
Uncontested.
Those are the
which-
best races, Ash,
Yeah.
right? You just
Yeah.
put your name on the thing and you're
Yeah.
right on that.
Brent Carter says, shut your mouth when you talk about me, Woodrow.
Oh, Brent's
He's
listening.
listening.
Oh,
Yeah.
Brent is always listening.
Yeah, he says you can't win if you're not on Wade and Carter. There's some truth to that.
Well,
I don't think we're batting 1,000, but we're batting probably 999 or something like that, to be honest. I think the one that skews that is Brent Carter himself. He was on the show and didn't win his own election. So there you go. Let's see what else is happening. So the Advocate website, if people want to watch, if they don't want to go, I think it's great that technology provides for this. I think it's sad in a way. I'll just watch it online, and then they never do.
Right.
Make a commitment and go.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that can't happen online is afterwards you can actually talk to most of the contestants.
That's the best part.
It is.
And those candidates will stay there for hours talking, answering every question. And that's when some people actually, I think, make up their minds.
Yeah.
Because having a scripted or having a debate and having these responses, 2 minutes here, 30 seconds there, that's great. But when all that ends and the lights are off and the cameras are off and you go up to the guy and you look him in the eye, or you go up to the woman and you look at her in the eye, that's, oh, I broke something. I'm sorry.
Uh-oh. Oh, just our holder fell off.
And that was the day the Wade and Carter show broke. Okay, sorry.
There we go. I think you're good now.
But you're exactly right. It's at the Walker Auditorium. It's a very spacious venue.
It's in the north building on the UHV
north
campus.
building. You can come and go. And that's the other thing. This is a 3-hour affair, and we
Yeah.
get it. People have kids. They have baseball games. They have all kind of things going on.
What's the speaking order so people can kind of gauge if they're more interested in the city elections, if they're more interested in what's going on with VISD, or they're more interested in the city's proposal to fund the community center, which we haven't even talked about, but you guys will be talking about that as well. So what's the order of appearance so people can maybe sort of gauge it?
Excellent. Such a great question. So we're going to start off.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah, you're excellent. And you are too, Brent.
Is
if you're
this your
listening.
first day, Ash?
So we're going to start off at 5:30 talking about Proposition A, which is this measure to expand the community center. Our city manager, Mr. Jesus Garza, will give a presentation and he'll answer questions. So he's not debating against anybody. So that's going to be 5:30 to 6 p.m. So if you just want to come for that, please. And if you leave afterwards, I'm not going to be offended. It's okay, right? The venue is designed in such a way where you can kind of come and go, and you don't draw attention to yourself and whatever else. So that's 5:30 to 6. Then at 6 o'clock, we'll start the debates between the school board candidates, starting with Miss Margaret Pruitt and Andy Rokovich for that district seat 6. So that's District 6 at 6 o'clock. Hopefully people can remember that. And that will be an hour long.
I like what you did there.
Yeah, see? Pretty clever. So
very clever.
6 to 7 o'clock, Andy Rokovic and then Margaret Pruitt. And then at 7 for District 7, we have the 3 gentlemen contending for that seat who, remind me, we've got Josh
Moore, Mickey Costella, and Christian West.
Excellent. So those 3 gentlemen will be at 7 o'clock, 7 to 8 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, we'll finish things out with Mr. Jacob Sasada, who is running for mayor, and we'll have 30 minutes for him, 8 to 8:30. So again, you might not stay for the whole thing. You can come and go depending on the ones that you want to see. But we'd really like to see you come out in person to meet these folks, to get a sense of who they are and what they're all about. I think it's going to be a really great night.
Yeah, Kelly Frommey says same thing with church. Attending in person equals community. I agree with that, but there's times when I've been away and I've been glad that I've been able to tune into my church service online. So it's not always a bad thing.
But Kelly, that's such a great point. The sense of community, because it's not just about you, it's about you and everybody else in this community. To see if we can all actually, we say things like, well, let's work together. Let's cross lines. Let's get out of our silos. Well, getting out of our silos starts with getting off the couch and actually talking to real humans instead of just posting things on Facebook, right?
Wow, so, I think Facebook and social media has probably been the biggest factor in dividing this country more so than the political divisions that we see now. I'm going to get into this in a minute.
Oh, that's true.
You know, you're the former chair of the Democratic Party in
I am. Victoria, wait, what?
In Victoria County.
You don't say.
Well, there are some that wish you probably never would have been the chair. And now that you're not, they try to make sure that you will never be the chair again.
The fan mail still comes.
I'm sure it does. Fan is spelled Hate. Right?
There you go.
Yeah. I've got a little bit of that over time. Always to try to silence you. Have you noticed that? It's never because they disagree with anything that you have to say.
Right.
Typically,
Right.
it's always to try to shut you up.
Yeah, there's that. And there's the other thing is, well, where is their voice? Where are their appearances on the news? Where are their appearances on this show? Where are their appearances on, newspaper? Where is their voice? Where are their leaders?
There have only been two candidates
right.
that have come on this show that have, and Maclovia Perez was one when he was running for Congress, and Stephanie Basham was the other. And that's it.
But like, who is the chair of the Democratic Party now? And what do they believe? What do they think? Where's their voice? That's what I'd like to know.
Apparently whoever's involved is thinks that having protests on Navarro is the answer to the problems in Victoria County. And I mean, another one announced that for this coming Saturday. What's your take on this? I can't imagine this would have been your.
Well, I've got lots of takes. And I think Brent, if you're listening, addressed this a little bit yesterday. What is the local Democratic plan to win elections? Not to get Facebook posts, not to get all their cool friends to like them and all of that, but what is their plan to actually win an election? And my thesis was always, we're going to win elections when what we advocate aligns with what the community wants and cares about. If you don't make that alignment between your messaging and what the community cares about, you're never going to win. So I came to the conclusion, Ash, that some of these folks are not necessarily interested in winning. They want to get their names out there. They want to show how cool they are to all their friends. They want to get it on Facebook and get all the likes. But likes on Facebook don't equal votes, right? They don't get you a seat at the table when people are making decisions about public policy. And that was always my focus, call me crazy, to actually win the elections rather than just to get a message out. But let's talk about the message.
Wow, but is it even a realistic goal for a Democrat in Victoria County to win an election beyond, we know there have been some Democrats elected to city council, school board. Can they win a county aside from Bloomington District 1, Danny Garcia, who runs the Democrat, but we all know.
Well, Danny's he's an excellent example because Danny has aligned himself with the needs of the people that are his voters. Now, people can call Danny a traitor. He's not a real Democrat. He's not true blue. See, you get caught up on all the labels. You get caught up in all the stereotypes, and you never win an election.
Yeah, well, but isn't the goal ultimately to represent the people that in your district, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I think this is where party politics gets out of hand at times. Yeah. But I mean, let's take that kind of anomaly out of it. With what you see on Navarro now, it seems like every second Saturday,
right?
Or at least that's what they're trying.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a Democrat in this county that can be elected to represent the people of this county, because the people of this county on Saturdays are either buying groceries for the family or they're busy working. They don't have time to go stand on Navarro and hold a placard that says, orange man bad. I hate Cheeto dust. I mean, that's the other thing. There's so much Trump derangement syndrome. It's funny, and we'll move into something else. But it seems out of touch with.
Well, that's the word, out of touch. So let's just talk about the messaging since the election of President Trump. So Democrats first tried this. He's not our president. Let's all have Facebook photos with upside down American flags because we're in distress. Yeah. We're in such distress. And people who think we're in distress need to really read American history and world history to see times of real, quote unquote, distress. I'm sorry that your candidate didn't win the presidential election, but the republic is not over. We are not in distress. We are not living in 30s Nazi Germany and all of these hyperboles that people
and
love.
Trump
to
is
make.
Not Hitler.
Hitler is not Trump. You know who is Hitler, Ash? Hitler. That's a pretty high bar, and just
or low bar, depending on which way you want to
right.
call it. Right. But I get exactly what you're saying.
So you think about the messaging. Okay, upside down flags didn't work. And I don't know if you've noticed, but they've kind of maybe discontinued that. They put their flags right side up. God bless. So now the thing is hands off. Take your hands off me. And again, I'm wondering,
Who's putting their hands on them?
Whose hands are on it? Are we living in North Korea? Are we living in China? And some people are like, yes, this is just like North Korea. And I'm like, really? Have you been to North Korea? Have you seen how that regime runs itself?
Chances aren't good because nobody goes to North Korea.
Right. So,
and if they do, they don't get out.
So again, it's the hyperbole. We're nothing like North Korea. So the same people saying hands off, hands off. Okay, do you want the hands off of the Department of Education, Health and Human Services, HUD? Now you want the hands on that, but you don't want the hands on this. So the messaging is so flawed. And again, the messaging is not going to resonate with the majority of voters here.
Well, and both parties can be guilty, but I think the Dems are the worst. They want the hands on the government when it's their people in charge. They had no problem with Joe Biden executive ordering everything on day one.
The most executive orders in the history of our country came from, of course, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the Democratic champion, right? More executive orders than really kind of all the other presidents put together. So it's like when our guy's in charge, we believe this. And that's where some of your viewers might hate me for this, but I consider myself a nonpartisan. I am not going to say, well, Woodrow, are you Democrat? You're Republican? I'm going to vote for the best person. This last time around, I voted for some Republicans. I voted for some Democrats. So, the partisanship, the hyper-partisanship, social media, all of that, I don't think is reality in terms of what people are really, really caring about. If we can go back to hands off for a second. So
Christy Thurman says the Dems are so handsy.
Okay.
Not handy.
Indeed. So
most I know couldn't work a hammer.
Okay, Ash. Okay. So you see, you hear this hands off. Well, I don't want our local elected leaders, and yes, they're Republican. Oh my gosh, maybe we're going to die. But I don't want AJ Louderback. I don't want Michael Cloud to be hands off. Let me give you an example. So Michael Cloud, I don't agree with all of his policies. I don't agree with all of his votes. But I know in my heart, and I've seen it in his actions, that he's absolutely dedicated to making the lives of citizens in this region better. Let me give you a very specific example. So one of the things I do is manage a Title III grant for the University of Houston, Victoria. And we were having a situation with the Department of Ed where we wanted to get all the money that we were due for this grant.
All of higher ed has been having these issues.
And the Department of Ed was saying, no, we're only going to give you this amount when the total amount was much, much more. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, by the way. And so I talked to Michael Cloud's office, and they help us get this money. How much money? $538,000 that we're now able to use for UHV students to make their lives better. So when people make absolute ridiculous statements that Michael Cloud is horrible, he doesn't care about our kids, he's this, he's that, is the other thing, remember the number $538,000. Okay.
And this isn't a grant that's going to some of these universities where they've found out that 85% of grants are actually going to pay people and not to what the grants are really supposed to do. This isn't that.
This is helping our kids get the skills that they need to stay in school, whether it be tutoring, supplemental instruction, all kinds of other interventions to help our students who need it the most.
Because the reality is at UHV, they're the lowest tuition rate of any state institution in Texas. And when you're charging the least amount, anyway.
So that's the problem. When we make absolute statements that all Republicans are bad, all Democrats are good, the nuance and reality shows good and bad, right? That you can't make these generalizations. I like what you were saying about Bill Maher's comments yesterday, Ash. And I would highly encourage all of your listeners, if you haven't, go to YouTube and see Bill Maher's testimony. Now, I know some of the listeners like, oh, he makes my blood boil.
It's 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
And it's a pretty good synopsis of everything that he went through with when he went to have dinner with Donald Trump. And I know there's some on the other hand that said, well, 538,000 federal government shouldn't even be giving that to UHV. So, I'll make that point because I know there's some that listen that were like, wow, that's why the DOE needs to go.
Or at least need to be reformed.
Yeah.
People want to go against Doge,
Yeah.
but I think Michael Cloud's work on Doge again has been good. Who's not for accountability and transparency? Who's not for, if you applied for a $2.3 million grant and you were granted that by the federal government, that's taxpayer money. And you should get every penny of that money to help students or to help whoever else. I think it's great that our United States congressman is on the forefront of that effort to ensure accountability, but I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No. And I know he's helped veterans who've had issues with the VA.
Absolutely.
And this is where I have a problem with the federal government. It shouldn't take a congressman getting into the weeds of the VA
No.
or the weeds of that grant or the weeds of anything to get something moving.
Yeah.
Because obligations are what obligations are.
Absolutely.
You may not. And so, if you don't like the $538,000 coming to UHV, then you know what, work for it not to come if that's how you feel. But anyway, Bill Maher had an interesting conversation, and I know he used the build up to his dinner with Donald Trump a couple of weeks ago as part of his show. Didn't know what to expect, and he admitted that, but found like the guy, and Brent and I talked about this, but I kind of wanted your take. The man that he had dinner with was nowhere near the man that makes fun of him on both ways, and wasn't the guy that you see publicly. And, I think Bill Maher even said, I wish he would be a little bit more like this guy than that guy, but I don't know that he could be this guy and be as effective as that guy on the world stage.
Absolutely. And I think if you went through all presidents of the United States, all 46 presidencies, you would see that commonality, that the person that I think people have built up in terms of what we think they were and what they really were are often two different things. President Clinton, now again, I don't want to alienate your viewers, he did some public policy things that I liked and I agreed with. But in the room adjacent to the Oval Office, he was doing inappropriate, terrible things that I don't agree with. He had morality lapses, okay?
Well, I'm not sure that room should be used for Donald Trump's merchandise
right?
either.
Well, that's a whole other story, but I'm just saying,
yeah,
you could go through every single presidency. So when people say this is unprecedented, we've never had a president like Donald Trump.
He doesn't act presidential.
He doesn't act like presidential. Research James Buchanan, okay? Research Chester Arthur. Did you know we even had a president named Chester Arthur? I don't know if you did, okay? Research Warren G. Harding, okay? We've had some abominable presidents. Now, they weren't on social media, and we didn't have a feed that was constantly telling us their things, but we know about their actions. We know what they did behind the scenes and in public policy.
LBJ.
So this idea that this person is so singular, so tyrannical, so different than anyone we've seen before is just absolutely ridiculous, not consistent with facts or history. And I think that's what Bill Maher's testimony brings to light. Bill Maher is no fan of President Trump.
Not at all.
And in fact, he talked about all the things he was critical of, including the fact that President Trump derived from, what was it, baboons or whatever, right? And he sat there and talked to him about these things, and they probably still don't agree on a lot of things, but having the conversation, what is wrong with that? Why aren't we doing more of that? You might not agree with Wade and Carter or whatever, but what's the harm in having a conversation? Is that really going to injure you? Are your friends going to...
Careful. We gave people safe spaces because of words they didn't like to hear in classrooms and places like that, right? Because we've, the old adage, sticks and stones, right? Words will never hurt me. That's no longer the case. And I think we've ascribed power to words and there are some words, yeah, I get it. But most words shouldn't harm you.
We just have to have more tolerance. And on the one hand, liberals and Democrats will say tolerance, equity, and diversity. That's great. Okay, then have tolerance for President Trump. I don't agree with everything President Trump says. I don't agree with a lot of his public policies, but he is my president, by the way. He's all of our presidents, whether we voted for him or not. You might not like him, might agree, but please stop saying he's not your president and put your flag right side up because we're not in distress, okay? So that's the kind of thing I think we need to get back to. And I think there was something about that Bill Maher video, and I plan on using it in my poli-sci and communications class, just as a communication.
Let me know when you do it. I'd like to sit in.
Because that is, I think, a fascinating sea change. I never thought I'd see that because I watched Bill Maher. I've been watching him since he was doing Politically Incorrect and everything else. I never thought, and at first I thought it was a joke. I was like, oh, well, Bill's, he's doing a skit or whatever. And then you start reading the accounts. You're like, no, this really happened. Now, again, Bill didn't come back with MAGA hat. And he's MAGA, right?
Well, he did come back with MAGA hats. He just didn't pose for a picture with them.
Right. But he's not like changed his mind on certain things at all. But I think he gives us a glimpse.
He's changed his mind on who Donald Trump is.
Absolutely.
And he said, I don't agree with his policies and I'll still hammer them.
And why can't we all get to that place? Disagree with their policies, but still be able to have a civil conversation or even dinner with them.
Commander looked like he was going to say something there. Were you? No, you just listening to the conversation.
No, I'm just fascinated. I think this is a great conversation.
Matt Oker says, I agree. More conversation is good. How about giving citizens more than 3 minutes to speak at meetings? And Matt, I agree, but I also understand why those types of things are in place. I can see if you've got 3 people to speak, give them some more time. If you've got 30 people to speak, then, or points start getting repetitious, then you call the question and move on, right? I mean, I've seen it happen in meetings where you just start talking, everybody starts parroting each other. Right. But no, I get what you're saying. Kelly Frommy says she's surprised the left even has flags. But you said something earlier.
Kelly.
Yeah. And Michelle Wilson-Hawkins says American flags. But you said something early on that the Dems refuse to either admit to or believe because they always say that Donald Trump is a threat to the democracy. They refuse to understand that this country is a republic,
right?
Based on democratic principles,
right? And
I think that is important because we're not a 50+1 vote to get anything done.
Right.
At some levels, we are.
Right. And again, threat to democracy, I would invite you to look at James Buchanan, the eve of the Civil War, who basically said, yeah, this isn't going to be a thing. I think we're going to be okay. Next guy, good luck. Next guy was Abraham Lincoln, right? So again,
we all know how that turned out.
Read a freaking history book. Open it up and see that what we're experiencing now, or another great book, and again, some of your listeners might not, but John Meacham, The Soul of America, which gives this ebb and flow of American history. And all these naysayers are like, unprecedented, never been this, never been that. And John Meacham's like, actually there were.
Yeah.
And John Meacham's, a supporter of Biden, okay? So he's not exactly a super conservative Republican, but he's a historian. And he's objective about the fact that we've got to slow the roll on all this hyperbole and all of this exaggeration because it's not helping us have those critical conversations with our physical neighbors. Talk to your neighbor, even if they had a Trump flag. They're not evil. And that's the other thing, Ash. You can disagree with Trump's policies and disagree with him, but are you going to castigate all of his voters as dumb? That's these other things at these marches locally. I was going through some of their Facebook posts about, this idiot with the Trump flag came out, super retarded idiot, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, really? That's your neighbor. That's somebody you know. That's somebody maybe you work with. But just because they have a Trump flag, they're somehow less than you. They're somehow stupid.
Well, there's the irony because I'm somewhat stereotypical, but the Democrats try to preach that they are the tolerant party and they have the least amount of tolerance for opposing viewpoints of probably anybody.
Now, I would put the inverse too, and I hope your listeners don't get mad at me when I say this, but if I had a Kamala Harris flag, I hope you wouldn't think there was something wrong with me.
Well, there are some that would.
There are some that would, but again, it's like, do we have tolerance for different points of view? Can we espouse a political belief without that defining every ounce of our character? And that's why I'm kind of done with both parties right now.
Let me take a break. And let's build on that
on
the other side of this break, because I think it's fascinating. We may need to bring you back tomorrow for some of this. Talk about the chopping block. White trash services. If you live in Victoria County or any of these surrounding counties, give White Trash a call. 550-1826. They will come and be your trash collection provider. They do great service, and they never miss a day. Weather never seems to slow them down like it does others in the region. So give White Trash a call. I've used them. They're awesome, folks. Went Services for all your electrical needs, plumbing, backup generator. We're almost into generator season. Others might call it hurricane season, but for those of us in the know, we call it generator season. They can put in a whole home generator. They can scale it to your budget and to your needs. Maybe you just want to run the AC in your beer fridge. They can do that for you as well. Veracruz Restaurant, Caldo Wednesday tomorrow. But you can get in there today and have everything on the menu except for the Caldo. Allen's Wrecker Service, our go-to to anytime I've needed a wrecker, Allen's has been the one that I've called, and they've always shown up quickly, professionally, and just done the job. I've witnessed other wreckers actually do more damage to cars getting them onto wreckers than sometimes it's unavoidable. Wheels won't turn, whatever, but Allen's knows all the tricks to get your car on and away without any further damage. And Paravita Wellness stopped by today. I had their chicken, kale, and egg breakfast muffins yesterday, and they're really, really good. So if you're looking for a healthy breakfast, I encourage you, get on by. Woodrow Wilson Wagner here, and we were talking a little bit about the tolerance. How do you build on this? You said you're done with both parties right now. Are we moving to third and fourth party status in this country? Is it even possible with the way our system is set up that, because, and trust me, I don't like the parliamentary system in Canada where coalitions exist, and same thing in Israel to try to get things done.
Yeah.
But
I think there's a way to preserve the two-party system without one having to pledge their allegiance to one or the other. People ask me all the time, are you a Democrat or Republican? And I'm like, well, I vote for Democrats. And weren't you the chair of the Democratic Party? Yes. Have you voted for Democrats? Yes. Well, then you're a Democrat. Well, no, actually, I voted for Michael Cloud the last election. Oh.
So you're a traitor.
So I'm a traitor. So that's where the conversation goes. So I want us to get to a place where I think most Americans are, where I'm going to vote for the best person. I'm going to vote for the person that I think reflects my values. Maybe that person's a Democrat. Maybe that person's a Republican. But Ash, I have problems with the Republican Party just as much as I do the Democratic Party. And I'm sorry, your listeners might not want to hear
Don't apologize.
that. But I'm saying that I want to get to a place where there's not a third or a fourth party, but it's just like, I'm going to vote for the person, whether they be a Democrat or Republican, and we stop identifying ourselves based on, are we Democrat or Republican? I think we need to start with, I'm American, okay? And I'm going to vote for the person that I think is doing the best for America and defending those values. Sometimes that person's a Republican. Sometimes they're a Democrat, at least in my view. Some of your viewers might not agree with that. Sometimes a person's an independent. I think, this conversation's gone up about, well, all the races should be one or the other. So people have to choose because all these Democrats are sneaking in as independents or nonpartisans. Baloney. Nobody's sneaking into anything. I hope you wouldn't think I was sneaking in. I guess some people probably thought that last summer. Woodrow's trying to sneak in. He's a secret Democrat. So he's running for city council, which is I'm not sneaking anywhere. I'm right here. You want me? I'm not sneaking anywhere. I'm ready to talk to anybody, anytime, any day. Okay. So this partisanship, I think, has been a toxicity, the hyper partisanship of it all on both sides. We've talked a lot about the Democratic side, but I think the toxicity exists on the other side as well, where people go too far and their allegiance for President Trump. For instance, everything President Trump does is perfect, right? President Trump makes no mistakes. He's the best president ever. Okay, well,
just ask him.
Right, just ask him. So I think we have to move beyond those labels. I don't know if it means a third or a fourth party. It just means respect for the person who disagrees with us. And all Democrats aren't this, and all Republicans aren't always this.
But,
I think that's what gets us.
And one thing that I'm hearing now is, we need to be more centrist. We need to get that. I think that was as dangerous to this country as the extreme partisanship is right now. I think the fact that we had very murky, middle of the road leaders have led us to becoming pawns in I mean, when Klaus Schwab and others are saying, well, that's the end of our plan for the New World Order, it tells you there was something going on.
I hear that, but I think if you talk to most people, they're probably more centrist than not in terms of
I
their
would
beliefs.
agree. Most people aren't extremes, and I think that's fair to say.
And there's something about the center of we can have a conversation without having to worry in the back of my mind, well, he's a flaming liberal or he's a super conservative, whatever, right? But I totally agree with you. If it's too centrist, then that becomes problematic.
I think if we could get back to actually just debating bills, one bill, one item, one topic, instead of all the pork that we've put into these things, we might actually get more done.
Absolutely.
And then the clarity would exist, because you wouldn't be able to hide behind voting against a bill. Wow, I didn't want to vote this bill because there's $800 billion of pork in it, knowing that, $2 billion of that pork comes back to your district. So you vote against it to look good, but you knew the money was going to come because the bill was going to pass. Right? Things like that.
You hit the nail on the head. Clarity to me is the key to being a critical thinker. If we want voters to understand what's going on, they need to have clarity. They need to have accuracy and precision. And I think most voters want that, but they're not always delivered that by the media or the politicians themselves.
Well, but feelings have trumped facts.
Absolutely.
No pun. And so,
yeah.
Your truth or my truth, right? Well, that doesn't mean it's the truth.
Right.
It's your experience.
Yeah.
But if you don't base it on any facts and it's all about your feelings,
right,
everything's skewed.
Right. Just like these folks that are saying, well, it's my feelings that my rights are under attack. It's my feelings that the Constitution's being shredded before our eyes. It's my feelings that we're living in a dictatorship. Can't you see it, man? Can't you see it? Well, those feelings are not consistent with facts or history. And again, please read a history book. Yeah. I don't know if I've mentioned this name, James Buchanan.
Matt Oger says all this focus on DC should be on Austin. We have just as many problems there, and Republicans are lying to you. I don't disagree, Matt, and I think it needs to be even focused at every level.
Well, Matt,
and I'm not sure if starting in DC is where it needs to start, but at least I think it's starting someplace. I think it probably should start more locally and work its way up. But I mean, I think DOGE is opening the eyes of not only what's going on in DC, but also what is happening in Austin. And again, we talked about it yesterday, $24 billion surplus. Why aren't we finding a way to give that $24 billion back instead of finding ways to spend that entire $24 billion?
And I don't disagree. The difference for me is our state representatives, I think, are more closely tethered to what's going on with their constituents. I see AJ and I see Lois a lot more than I do all the national leaders. And they're not worried about all the bureaucracy. They're worried about getting things done. Lois and AJ right now, as we're speaking, are getting things done specifically for the constituencies. So they might not be able to control the apparatus and everything else, but they are certainly tethered to our needs.
Yeah. Love the conversation, Woodrow. Thank you very much.
Don't forget the forum tomorrow night. The forum.
Remind everybody again, tomorrow night, 5:30, Walker Auditorium. That's in the North Building on the UHV campus. Limited parking out front, but all the reserved parking goes away at 5 o'clock, so you can park there. But plenty of parking behind the building next to the soccer field, and it's just a short walk. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the candidates, the issues, get there tomorrow. I appreciate you putting that together. I think it's important. I hope turnout is going to be good. I think it will be, because I think there's a lot of interest in the school board elections this time around. The city ones, maybe not so much. And I think this bond will bring people out.
Absolutely.
But I think there's more, personally, I think there's more interest in these school board elections than I've seen in a lot of years.
I hope so. And I think it's a sea change. Please come if you can.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much, sir. Woodrow Wilson Wagner, UHV professor and former chair of the Democrat Party. And I'm not going to say he was part of the walkaway movement, but yeah, he basically walked away, couldn't handle it. And I'm not going to say he couldn't handle it, just it didn't resonate with him anymore. And I appreciate his views today because I think it's where we kind of need to start getting. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Appreciate y'all. and the feedback. And I will be back here tomorrow morning. We'll see you all mañana. Bye, folks.
Bye.